Primary question has become, what can I learn from this? Getting reacquainted with her fellow Toastmasters and returning after a 5-year hiatus.
Wow.
5 more years and she'll have 10 years. Chantel will open with an icebreaker speech. We will journey with her as she takes us back to her birthplace and hometown in South Africa, where she grew up and perhaps learn a thing or two about herself in the process. Please give a warm welcome to Toastmaster Chantel Dalabona.
Looking for Bluetooth signal. Connected.
Has my time started? Okay, good. Alright. I used to wonder, and sometimes frankly still do, what I can possibly learn from the loud, rambunctious children who claim me as their mother. What can I learn after investing weeks, months, and years into a career that wasn't in alignment with my true values and sole purpose? What can I learn from weeping and praying at the bedside of my dying father? Love. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. By a show of hands, how many of you played a sport growing up? I personally played a lot of tennis. My dad played tennis, my dad's dad played tennis, and naturally, I learned how to play tennis too. And in the midst of playing tennis, I learned a whole lot about life. So today, I'm going to share with you 4 real-world lessons that I learned on the tennis court. Now, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the game of tennis, I'd like to take a moment to serve up some terminology. In this context, love has a double meaning. In this room, the word love speaks to the heart, but on the tennis court, love is a score, and if you have love, you don't have any points. This brings me to the first life lesson. Every game begins with love. I fell in love with the daily experiences of life early on. I was surrounded by a very loving, connected, and supportive family. We ate together, we prayed together, we vacationed together. And even though my siblings and I fought like cats and dogs, we somehow always made up and made it through. Like a seedling planted and nourished to become a blooming and vibrant flower, love has been the seed that's cultivated so many amazing relationships in my life, including the one that I now have with my beloved spouse. Who knew that my soulmate would be oceans apart? Not here in South Africa, but all the way across in Brazil. Yet unbeknownst to either of us, we would both journey to the United States and meet. And we quickly found out that we loved to eat together, pray together, and vacation together. Love. It transcends time and space. It is one of those moments that, it's one of those things that capture the very essence of who we are. Which brings me to the second life lesson. The tension on your racket strings needs to be just right. If the strings are too loose, the tennis ball will fly through the air like an uncontrollable rocket. And if they're too tight, they'll snap. I experienced this growing up in South Africa, which seethed with racial tension. Unfortunately, apartheid was a feature of everyday life, causing a lot of separation and strife. Tension continued to mount day after day until eventually the strings of despair and distress snapped. On the 27th of July, 1987, it was a bitterly cold winter's day when my dad received a phone call that his father, my grandfather, had been murdered. Even as a little girl at the time, I vividly remember this moment as clear as a cloudless sky on a hot summer's day. Fast forward 5 years, and my brother and father were robbed and held at gunpoint. Fortunately, their lives were spared. Yet year after year, we continue to hear innocent stories of loved ones who were robbed and ruthlessly violated. We lived in constant fear of our lives, watching our back at every turn. Johannesburg, the city where I grew up, had become one of the most dangerous cities in the world. Which brings me to the third life lesson. Tennis is filled with errors, but winners learn how to persevere. You may have been beaten down by life and crushed by circumstances, but life goes on. When apartheid finally ended, we were thrilled. Unfortunately, however, there remained a great deal of upheaval as the nation tried to find its way. So my parents explored the option of immigration. They went on to sacrifice their livelihoods, moving thousands of miles away from family and friends in an effort to enrich the quality of our lives. I watched how my father, a visionary, set into motion that which would alter the trajectory of our lives forever. So the fourth life lesson learned is to follow through. In tennis, you must follow through on each shot. In life, following through is just as important. The day we became citizens was a very proud moment. Love, the beauty of tension, perseverance, and follow through, these lessons are etched into the very fabric of my being and continue to carry me through, both in my personal and professional life. My hope for you today is that the tension in your life be strung just right, so that you may love the challenge that every moment serves up and follow through on all of your hopes and dreams.